Hello Reborners, my name is Karen and this is Making Dolls with Karen. We're back with little Ashley. She looks like this now. Before we get into Ashley, I want to ask everybody to please like, subscribe, and share. If you enjoy my videos, please like them and subscribe to my channel. And we're going to get started painting Ashley her next color, and it is Warm Blush. I might have to stop at any moment because my son is going to be here and it will interrupt our video. I think that's a red brush. I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure what color that was supposed to be in. Oh well. Anyway, so if that happens, I'll just stop the video and it'll be a little shorter than normal. This coat is really put on the same as the other coat. It's just a different color. Don't run up. I don't need two brushes out. This is so... I have to grip it some kind of way. It's just not gripping. It's way full. I know that. I made it too dark and I ended up putting a really lot of paint thinner in it to cut down the color a little bit. And so it's way too dark. Okay, we're just going to mix it real good. Get some on our brush. See how dark that is? Still kind of dark. But it works, so that's all I care about. As it soaks down in there, it gets lighter, see? Anyway, we're going to paint on her face a little bit first. The parts where the sponge can probably not reach, and that's most of her face. We're going to get some up inside of her nose, all in these little cracks around her nose, her mouth, her chin, under her chin, her whole face. And then we're going to do her ears and around her ears and behind and the backs of her ears, you know. We want to make sure we get all that space. And then underneath her ears, under here, we're going to do that. And then this little thing across the back of her neck. And then we're just going to take our sponge and we're going to sponge her. But we're going to sponge right over that part we did with the brush already, because we want to get the spongy effect and not the brush effect. Just sponge her everywhere. Just follow some sort of a pattern so you can get every little spot done. I mean, you can tell where you've done. It's going to be darker where you've done. This color is much darker than the first color. Okay, so then we're going to take our sponge, and our clean sponge, and we're just going to dab off a lot of this excess. Because it just looks, I know you can tell it's splotchy looking. And it'll turn out looking rashy and splotchy if we don't spread it a little and smooth it out. I like the pretty smooth finish that you can get on a doll. Not a fan of any sort of blotchiness. We might give Ashley a scratch. Sometimes babies, they're born with their nails a little too long and they end up scratching themselves. I suppose they could scratch themselves before they're born even. I don't really know. I just know sometimes babies have scratches. Not really sure how they get it. Now we're going to take this even cleaner one. We're going to go over her again and see if there's any more we missed. Plus this will help dry her a little bit. She won't be quite as shiny and wet looking. And when we get ready to do the second coat, this one will be nice and dry. She's looking really good, I think. She's such a cute little sleeping baby. Now her awake version looks a little weird, but I like her sleeping version. She's real cute. Let's see if I can get my fingers out of her head. There we go. Put her down. And we'll get her arms and legs. I always paint the feet with the brush. She's got some big feet for such a little baby. Long feet. Sometimes on these little preemie babies, they give them really long limbs. And but they're really skinny little limbs. arms. So they're trying to, I guess, uh, not make them so much as a short baby, but it's just a really, really thin, not filled out baby. Because, at some point, the baby is as big as it's going to get. It just needs to gain weight. I mean, it's as long as it's going to get. And so if it's born before it gets to gain that weight, it's still the same length it would be when it's born. At least this is what I've heard. But it's just not, it doesn't have any weight on it, hardly. And I guess that's what they're after on some of these. See, they make them a little bit wrinkly look in their skin because they haven't been filled out with any fat, I guess. I don't know. Guessing at it. My babies were plump and fat when they were born. They were both over 8 pounds. There we go. That looks good. Lay that one down. Don't lay your parts on the table. I know you see me doing it, but it's not a good idea. You can rub off some of the paint, put them on your drying rack. The only time I tell people not to use their drying rack is when the dolls are coming out of the oven. They're hot and they're very soft. They're squishy and soft. And if you put, like, the dowel would just go right up in the leg right up here, and it would end up propped against up here. And because it's so squishy and soft, it's just like when you hang your sweater on a hanger and you get that hanger print on your sweater, you'd get a dowel print on your doll. It would make a little lump there. I've had it happen to dolls before that I put on there. So I quit putting them on there hot. In fact, I quit using my drying rack for drying dolls even. The only time I make sure I put them on there is when they have sealer on them, and they have to sit a while and dry. If you lay them on the table, they'll stick. But I don't really use my drying rack for anything else. It's empty now, but a lot of times it's just got a doll stored on it because I just don't know where to put it. But I'm just constantly painting and sticking them in the oven, and putting them on the drying rack just seems like a useless step to me. I don't know. But you should really put yours on the drying rack, especially if you're one of those people that freak out over lint. Some people freak out over lint, and they they won't even put any sort of a towel on their table because of lint or fuzz or whatever you want to call it. But that's mostly air dry. Heat set, you don't have that problem usually. Anything that does get on your doll is just going to come right off. I just never understood what people were talking about. And they go, why is there so much lint? I go, lint? Where are they getting so much lint? And then I tried to make an air dry doll, and it was covered in lint. It's just like, it just comes from somewhere and just sticks to your doll. And then I fully understood. And boy, it does make you sort of freak out because you can't hardly get it off. Anyway, I got to put some more paint on this. It doesn't have enough in it. This is another paint that I mixed up and I put way too much in it. A lot of it is not paint, though. It is thinning medium. It probably has too much thinning medium in it. Instead of just putting the amount of thinning medium I needed for this jar, I proceeded to mix up half a jar. I don't know. And I put the thinning medium and the Exodus oil in there, and I mixed up the half a jar, and then I decided, oh, I should have mixed up more, so I got another jar to mix the other half of it up in because I wanted to make sure it mixed with the thinning oil and the thinning medium before I put it in with this paint, because otherwise you got this gloppy paint down at the bottom that won't mix in well. And so that's what I did, and it was too much. It turned out to be too much thinning medium. It looked funny. It looks funny, but it works, so I'm using it. See this? See those dots on that doll on her arm? Those are granules of paint that didn't dissolve. And see, when I tried to wipe it off, it smeared. You don't want those. That's why I put the thinning medium in there in the first place, was to keep from getting those. But some of my paint, I'm not sure if it was this color or another color. I don't know which color I used, which kind of paint. I still have some Genesis paint. You know, they've been out of business for a long time now. And so the paint isn't all that new. But it's supposed to have a long shelf life, but it's starting to not be creamy like it should be. It's more of a thicker, I don't want to say globby, that's not the right word, but it's thicker than it should be, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And it doesn't dissolve as well. So I don't know if it was this color or another color, I don't know, but I just know I had trouble mixing this paint because of the way I did it. I'm not sure there was anything wrong with the paint. I think it was user error. But anyway, long story short, I had a problem with it. And so it's got a few granules in it. I had some paint one time that was just had so many granules in it. What I had to do to use that paint, because I didn't have any more paint or any money to buy any paint, and I didn't want to not paint, so I'd mix up the paint. You know, you have to put your brush all the way down to the bottom to mix it, or you're not mixing it good. And then I had to give it a second for the granules to settle, and then I had to just only get paint from the very, very, very top of it. And I still got a few granules, but usually you see them on the doll and you can pick them off, and it's not such a bad thing. Usually. I'm not going to say every time. But anyway, this is going to be her last limb for her first layer. Anyway, if I have to stop the video in the middle, you will at least have seen me put one layer on. The other layer goes on exactly the same. I just don't want to subject y'all to me having to stop and talk to my son for 5 or 10 minutes and then come back to the video. And I don't want to make 2 parts with this one color, so we may cut it short. I don't know. Yeah, she's got a pretty skin tone now. Different dolls have, I don't know, there's something different about their vinyl. I don't know how to explain it. It's just something about their vinyl that's different. And their skin tones, you'll be using the same exact paint in the same exact order, the same number of coats, but the doll will come out different. Darker or lighter or just a different tone or something. And some of them you like and some of them you don't. So, you know, it's not always about the paint. Sometimes it's about the kit. Darker kits, of course, are going to come out darker than really, really light kits. That's why a lot of people want all their kits to be the same sort of neutral color. I don't usually neutralize any kits unless they're really, really horrible. I just look at the kit and I can tell by the color of the kit how dark or light that particular doll's probably going to come out. And you just have to remember, darker kits make darker babies. And so you wouldn't want to put as much dark paint on your doll unless you're wanting a super dark baby. And really, really pale kits, of course, are going to have a lighter colored doll. So if you're going with lighter colors, you're going to indeed have a pale doll if it's really, really white looking vinyl. The best vinyl is the kind of peachy, I guess. I'm not talking about that pink color or that orange looking color. It's more like this color right here. Some people call this one white. I call it kind of peachy color. It's very light, and it's very neutral. They didn't introduce any what they call warming it up. There was a time when they were starting to make their kits um, what they call warm. They already had a little bit of color on them. So you didn't have to do so much to them. And a lot of people didn't like it because, well, it just messed with their process. See, people sort of develop their own little process. Uh, they decide, I already know what to do to my kit. Now you've messed it up with all this color, and my little process now makes a different looking baby. And I'm not satisfied with the way it looks anymore. And so Bountiful Baby, I think, quit doing that. But the ones that they had already decided they were going to warm up, they still come out that color. They didn't change them back. They just quit warming up any other kits. There, that's got her. Oh, that's got her head the second time. And then we're going to do the legs. See, once they look powdery dry like that, no more shiny on it at all. It's dry, and you feel of it. It just feels like somebody put powder on it or something. Very powdery feeling. Just handle them gently because you don't want to rub any of that off. After all the paint thinner evaporates, it just leaves behind the paint. And then it has to be baked to make it permanent. Oh, that looks okay. Otherwise, it will come off eventually. It just literally feels like you powdered some very coarse powder, not fine like baby powder, but maybe like cornstarch or something. It just feels like something's on it, and it's very dry feeling. That's what dry paint feels like to me. Your sponge gets a little too wet. That's why I use two sponges. This sponge, the first one you use especially, gets very wet because the paint is sort of puddly. When you're sponging it on, it doesn't go on evenly. In some spots, it'll be wetter than other spots. And when you're trying to tone that down and even it out, well, your sponge is getting very, very wet. I have to put a little more on this. It doesn't have enough on it. Be careful that you don't have paint all over your hands when you touch your doll because you will put fingerprints in a color on your doll. And this is not something that we want. One of the most important things you can do to get a good doll is wash your hands. Wash your hands. They get so dirty from the paint. My fingertips and underneath my fingernails, it'll dye the bottom side of your fingernails. Literally dye them. And other than soaking your hands in some hot soapy water, there's really no way to get it off, I don't think. Or cutting your nails, you can do that. I try to keep my nails kind of short because, well, they just look so bad all the time. Painting dolls, bad for your nails. There's people who wear gloves. I just cannot work with gloves on my hands. I could never be a doctor. Never. I can't do things with gloves on my hands. It's too cumbersome. we go. Now we're ready for the arms. Just keep going. It's just a process. The more we just keep at it, we'll get done. It's really not, if I had to say this is how long it takes to make a doll, I'd say 3 hours. But you just can't do it and just be done in 3 hours, because you have to allow for cooling. But the actual painting and baking time is probably no more than 3 hours. Now that doesn't count rooting. Rooting's a whole separate different thing. She had a little bit right there in the crack of her finger I couldn't get out. So I had to get it out. I usually paint for a while. And while she's baking and cooling, I'm working on another doll. I'll do the same process to the next doll. And by the time she comes out and is ready to start cooling, the other one's ready to go in. And then I have 2 sort of hot dolls. Ashley could be almost cool, but not cool enough. And the other one would just be coming out maybe and not cool at all, or it's still in the oven. And I'll go and I'll do something else. Like I have several dolls in the bedroom that I only just dressed this morning. They need to be photographed and put online to sell. And I haven't done that yet, so I could do that. Or whatever. And then when I get finished with that, well, they'll be cool in time for me to put another coat of paint on them. But you see, I'm not just sitting here just doing this, because you'd be going, while you're waiting for them to cool and stuff. You'd just be sitting there staring into space, because there's just nothing else to do. I mean, how many dolls can you start at once? There's a limit, I think. How many you should. I've worked on as many as 4, but it gets quite confusing. You go, now which one was next? And did I do this coat yet? It doesn't look like it, but sometimes, it doesn't look like it. But you did, and then you put the coat on again, and it's too much. Or you go, I think I did, and then you don't, and it's not enough. Sometimes you really can't see the results of your work till the very end. I have actually made a video before. It's not still up. I've deleted a lot of my videos because I had way too many. And nobody was watching the older ones. So I just deleted them because they start to take up a lot of space. Anyway, I made a video where I reborned some dolls to different stages. Like the first doll would just have the skin tone on it. The second doll would have the skin tone in this color. The third doll would have all 3 colors. So that people could see the difference and how it does make a difference. Even though you can't really see it as you're reborning them, if you had another doll right beside it that didn't have that step on it, you'd be going, yeah, this one's much darker than that one. I can see that. But with it just standing alone by itself, you can't tell that much difference. But let me show you how far we've come on Ashley, for example. We're still going to do her nails and her lips before we put her in the oven. But let me show you. This is Ashley. She's had her enhancements in 2 colors. This is what she looked like when we started. She was a blank kit. So you see, we have come a long way. But each little step we've done on Ashley hasn't made that much of a difference. And you're going, yeah, okay, I can see she's darker, but, there's a lot of, well, the floors in this apartment are so bad. They have that old-timey floor like what grocery stores have, those icky-looking tiles, and they're cracking up. And right down here under my chair, right where my wheel rolls, there's a big rut in the floor where the tile is broken, and my chair gets hung in it. Anyway, that's the end of this color. We won't be using it on her anymore. I'm going to put the lid back on it so it won't spill, and I'm going to do her nails and her lips. Where's my little skinny brush now? Oh, well, here it is right on the table. I'm going to be using this again. And we're going to look at her lips. They're starting to look really good. Her lips do look good, but they're just not dark enough. I just want them a little bit darker. Anyway, we're just going to paint over them again. Looks like my son's not coming. He has to come on his lunch break, and it looks like his lunch break's about over, and he ain't got here yet. Sometimes you don't take lunch till 1 o'clock, though, so he could be coming later. I have to keep turning the head a different way because you can't always see the lips all that good, and I can't see them hardly at all with my glasses on. I ordered some stuff online, and they didn't tell you that they were coming from, they didn't have a Chinese name to their company, and I had no idea they were coming from China. They ought to have to tell you that. They had an American-speaking person there talking about it and showing it and demonstrating it and stuff, and then it's going to come from a Chinese company. I don't think that's fair. And the problem was they showed one thing, and that's not what you get. I didn't get that. I got something else. And it was cheap and crappy, and it was nothing like what they were advertising. And thank goodness I paid with PayPal. PayPal is your friend. When people do you that way, PayPal will stand behind it, and they will make sure you get your money back. I'm just pulling some of the paint out. She's got a little too much on her. Even though she can take this much now, it's just not, I don't want that much on her, you know. At one time, it might run. It's down in the crease of her lips where her two lips would come together. And if you sit her up on her rim, it might run out. That looks good. I think it's probably dark enough. Her nails could be dark enough already. I'm going to put a little more on them, though. Next coat. Oh, I got to do something about that first. She's got a little stuff in between her fingers. After a few coats of paint, you can really start to see where the buildup is. You might not can see it at all with the regular skin color 05. Oh, it doesn't really show that much. And so you wouldn't know that it's still something built up there. But when you start getting darker colors on top of it, it really starts to show, and then you can tell. And you got to fix it as soon as you see it, or it could get out of hand where you can't fix it. If you can't get it out with a brush, then you use a toothpick. But you got to be careful you're not digging too hard. You'll scratch off every bit of paint on the doll instead of just what you're trying to scratch off. If you're trying to scratch off just, you know, oh, this nail's going to be hard. Oh, crap. I did it a couple times already and it wasn't that hard. Why is it hard now? That sounds like my son coming up the stairs. It might be those kids next door. They play on the stairs too. I just know I can hear when people stomp on the stairs. He has work boots on, so he would probably stomp. You can hear it. They're metal stairs. And I hear quite a lot of stomping out there. I don't know what it is. Sometimes kids jump up and down on the, I know it sounds weird, but they jump up and down on the stairs. I guess they like that sound it makes. This is the next to the last coat. We want this coat to be like really, really good so that when we put on the last coat, we don't have to come back and do anything else to the doll. A lot of times, if you're not careful, you'll find things that you have to change about your doll. And this is a good time right now to do it. This is the last coat we'll put on the nails and the lips, because if we're going to tip the nails, we'll need to do it on the next coat. I don't know yet if I'm going to try. I might try. If I can tip this little nail that's way down in the crevice like that, then I'll tip them. It'll be the hardest one to tip. But that's why I like to get this coat. I want to make sure it's near perfection. I don't want anything in the creases. I don't want any smeary things. I don't want, anything to be wrong with it. All right, this is going to do it. I've got all the nails painted, every one of them, and she's ready to go in the oven. So we're going to get her in for her bake, and I'll be getting the other doll out to put some paint on him. It's Dominic, awake. Just can't do every doll online. It just takes too long. Anyway, please remember to like, subscribe, and share, and happy reborning.